Hi everyone, we continue our series here of interviews at the first GPeC conference in Moldova where we talk about all things e-commerce. And today next to me is a person who I would like to introduce as the chief of the coloring department.
The chief of the colouring department. I'm the chief colouring person, yes.
It's Joe Quick, and we'll talk about a very significant part of any e-commerce business is data analysis.
Yes.
And now that we have the fourth version of Google Analytics, that actually the deadline is June 30th. Can you tell us more about what this actually means for e-commerce companies?
Oh, that's kind of a loaded question, isn't it? What does it mean for e-commerce companies? Hopefully, if you are an e-commerce company, I mean, from us talking today, the deadline is in less than 2 weeks. So I would have assumed that people have at least migrated over. So they've tried to get...
For it.
Yeah, they've turned it on, would be a start. And they've got some purchase events firing so that they can still track revenue and what's happening. I think beyond that, most people from my clients in America to Europe to the UK, because we're not in Europe anymore, which is sad, they're all in the same...
There are we.
Oh, yeah, but you're wanting to join. That's another conversation. So anyway, I'm a heartbroken ex-European person. The way that the analytics has changed, because the model is completely different. For a lot of people, they have used Universal and they will continue to use it right up until the 11th hour. And I think for a lot of people, they're going to log in July and it's going to feel really alien. If you are familiar with my analogy of modes of transportation for analytics, I just did it in the talk. I describe it as if analytics was a mode of transportation, then Urchin would have been a bicycle. And we like that because we used to have these old hit counters because I'm old enough to remember those. And then we had an upgrade in 2007 and we got Classic. That was like getting a moped, a little scooter. And we're like, fantastic, we don't have to ride our bicycle anymore. And then in 2011, we got Universal Analytics, which was like getting rid of the scooter and giving us a car. And that's where the familiarity has come from. They've all used a similar engine, so they've all had the same data model. And you've either been the driver, the passenger, the engineer. Some people don't know where the car's parked, but either way, they are familiar with Universal Analytics. But it hasn't actually changed in about 15 years. It's the same. And I've even done reviews on sites that had Classic installed and it was still working. I was like, bloody hell. The way that GA4 is positioned, Google has rightly said it's an upgrade. It is. The things you can do in GA4 are brilliant. But it's not get rid of my old Universal Analytics car and give me a new car, a Tesla, a Range Rover. Instead, they've replaced it with a helicopter, a GA4 helicopter. So you log in, and you might have done it, and you've gone, where is the thing? Where? And it's like, oh no, that's moved. You don't have a steering wheel anymore. You've got a joystick. You don't have that report there. It's now a whole load of lights above you. It's really disorientating to first use it. And because the data model is completely different, you've got to rewire your brain that like a page view was a hit and now it's an event. And it's like, whoa, like to get your head around things. They haven't named things the same. So when I'm looking at page view data, the parameter is page location or page path and query string. And you're looking for all pages. You're using the car's logbook to understand how a helicopter works. So the biggest shift, I think, for e-commerce, as well as getting it activated, is you have to learn to fly a GA4 helicopter. You're going to have to really understand that data model to understand how the data got into that account, and then what words do you use to find stuff. Because I still have a cheat sheet of event names and the parameters, because I've been doing this for a long time, and you're probably the same. It's really hard to go, okay, it was called this, it's now called that, and then using that to get it. But you will...
Especially after you've formed the habit, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing I say to people is, if you have learned how to install like a shopping platform, you can learn. Like, you can learn a skill, and that's all analytics is. It's another skill for you to learn, but it is completely doable because you've already done it.
Does this mean now that a lot of companies should start taking time to help their marketing department
100%.
get used to it, give them time to fail, make errors, you know.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons that I think I got so good at this is because I was doing my postgrad about 15, 16 years ago, and I learned all about Universal. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Went back to my office and turned around to my boss and went, oh my God, we're doing it all wrong. And she's like, all right, go fix it. And if you fail, well, we're not really using it that well anyway. We're not using it to its full performance. When you feel it's comfortable, then that's our D-Day for we'll rely on the data. And having somebody to support me to say, you can break it and learn. And you normally learn more from breaking things, right? Because that's how we all learn. I was able to develop that skill set and then use that to teach other people and do the work for clients. So, yeah, you need to allocate, even if it's just half an hour a week, to just build on that strength. But that might be a little bit more time if you have left it to the 11th hour, because your reports, you're going to be reporting in July. And if they're not what you need, you haven't got as much time to kind of fail, because you're going to have to do it fairly quickly, aren't you?
So does this mean that Universal's completely going to stop working?
Yes, so on the 1st of July, Universal Analytics will no longer track any data. So you can log in, but the lines are all going to drop off a cliff. We then have 12 months to access the raw data. After that, all of those servers are going to be wiped clean. So you will not have access to that data. We're still waiting, because this was a question that I had from Andre. We are still waiting for Google to provide their solution of, well, how do I suck out the data that is valuable to me so I can use it? Yeah, but I will say, out of all of the very many hundreds of dimensions and metrics in Universal, they are not all on parity. They are not all equal. There are some reports that are not useful for you, or you have the data somewhere else. Like, I wouldn't use Google Analytics for my e-commerce data. Your shopping platform has that. That's the source of truth. GA is telling you what marketing brought the purchases and what marketing brought the types of purchases. It's not your CRM system. It's not your shopping platform. So there are some data points that you probably won't export, because that you're not going to do anything with the data. And I know there's almost like an ownership, isn't there, to go, oh, well, you're gonna burn it, you're gonna set it on fire. Let's store everything. Are you going to look back at screen resolution data for the last 15 years? And if you do, what are you going to do with that information? Well, probably don't need to export that then.
An old photo album.
Yeah, so I think for most people, it's going to be 3 data stories they want to export, whether they export it from whatever Google solution might be, or just exporting the raw data directly from the user interface as a CSV or an Excel file. The first data story is, how do people find me? So you'd be exporting high-level trend data for channels, SEO, email, that kind of thing, because you want to understand that consistency, don't you? If the stuff you're doing in the future, is my SEO better this year versus last year? I've launched TikTok. Is it better or worse than the previous iteration? You've then got behavior, which is what do people do on my website. So I'm more likely going to want to export the page data. What are the top pages? What's the trending pages? And if you had any events, the category action and labels, high level data for that. If you were tracking videos or file downloads or event clicks for telephone numbers, that would be useful. And then, am I still in a job? Conversions, high level conversions. What were the KPIs of your main micro and macro conversions over the last few years? The other stuff that's in there is noise. And if you're realistic and honest, you're not going to go through old data pots and remash them and do anything with it. So you need to take what you will use or what is valuable.
So basically this means if we do take care of these 4 things and take it slow,
yeah,
we will have time to adjust.
Yeah, and any marketing performance platform, if you're using Google Analytics or you're going somewhere else, I always go through a phased approach. Like, what is priority 1? What is critical? And for most e-commerce people, that's going to be the purchase event. If they don't do anything else, they just get that one event, because you want to know, did I make a sale and how much money was it? Phase 2 could be, I'm going to further emphasize the e-commerce events for add to basket, add to cart, so I can do a funnel. And then you might do in the next phase to go, well, now we've got some content and some video, so maybe I'll build some events to see if people are watching them, and so on and so forth. So you will have a long to-do list. You don't have to do it all in one go. And in most cases, even from the small brands I work with through to massive budgets like global brands, there's a finite resource for all of them. You know, like sometimes there's an in-house developer, but you've got to book the run and he's got 5 days, so pick what he can do in the 5 days. And even if you're in a really big business, it's the same thing. Oh, I can get you that PO, but it's going to take me 6 months to raise it and get it through finance and all the other things. So you've just got to work with what you've got and plan a phased approach so you are incrementally getting better with the data that you're collecting. And my final point on that bit is I don't like waste. So I honestly say to clients, do you need the data? Do you use the data? Because if you don't use the data, why are we collecting it? Why are you spending money on somebody being... Yeah, it's pointless. If you're going to do something with the data and you're ready to invest in it, brilliant. Let's get a plan. Let's phase it. Let's priority order it. You don't track for the sake of tracking. You track because the output is always a report, right? And that report, one person, maybe two, has the power to say yes or no to whatever it is that you're asking them to do. If it's your own business, you're reporting to go, do I spend my money that's personal, right? Like I'm a one-person company. Any money I spend is money I don't give to my children to feed them. It's a personal decision. And even if it's in a budget that you own, you've got to think about how you would like work through it, right? And I think knowing that that output is I need to show some form of growth and I need to get a question answered, that's where you need to start. So sometimes it can be as simple as wireframing, you know, like how you do with a website page, wireframe a report to go, well, I need these KPIs and a trend graph and I want to show something, and then work out, do you have the data for that to further improve that spreadsheet, that report? But remembering that the person you're reporting to, almost like a reporting persona, you're reporting because you want action. Continue doing what you're doing, invest in that, stop that, move the budget over there. Otherwise, you're just, and the jokey, you know, the colouring in department name, if I'm just reporting for the sake of reporting, I'm giving you number soup. I'm trying to tangibilise my work to make it, because it's hard with marketing, right? We're doing a lot of stuff and it feels like people don't always know what we do. You know, you try and explain to people to go, oh, this is, we've been doing some schema markup on SEO, and somebody's like, you're talking Klingon to me, what are you doing? So it can be very tempting to go, here's the stuff, here's some evidence for the stuff that you don't see, because it can be very fluffy and floaty and effervescent, or whatever word you want to use.
Crayons.
Yeah, and we don't want that. We want to show that we are building growth, that we are a revenue maker, not a revenue taker. And that requires some thought. So I think this whole transition from GA3 to GA4, for many people, they added the code, didn't they, and said, I want GA. And then they looked at it when they were bored, or they looked at it when they needed a report. This transition has made people actually think, what data do I need? How do I need that to be visualized? And what am I going to do with it? And that I've welcomed, because for many people, they've never thought, what are my measurement objectives? They've instead said, hoover all the data so I can create a report that tangibilizes what I do. So you start from the foundations, really. What do I need? How am I going to report on it? And then from there, work out your migration plan. Whether it's GA4 or you go to another provider, the questions and the process is the same.
I really like that your message was calm down, take it slow, there's no rush.
Yeah,
it's a big change.
Do you know, and I said this to somebody where they were like, oh, and I was like, it's not that deep, people. Like, it's just work. Like, people work without this. People work with bad data. Like, I've done audits, and I call it confabulations of data, which is a fancy way of saying lies we tell ourselves honestly. I've seen people present data where, an easy one, they didn't exclude their developer site from the live data source, so the numbers never matched because it included the developer site, but they were making decisions on that, going, "Oh, conversion rate's 3%." I'm like, "Actually, it's 2 because that 1% was you lot doing stuff." So you have people using data and they don't know how they got there, and it's a bit dirty and it's not quite clean. And then you've got people that are starting from scratch and they're really overwhelmed. And I say with most talks and training that people will feel a duality of emotions. They will feel excitement at what you can do with analytics today, and a sense of overwhelm because it's a big to-do list. So you have to be kind. It is a learning journey. Everything's a learning journey. And as long as you are moving forward, making incremental growth, whatever that looks like, you are doing well. So chill out, be kind to yourself. It's a new thing. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Take what you need with what you've got and go from there. You've got to be realistic.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. I wish I could pick your brain for a little longer.
I mean, I'm here all day, so like.
Thank you so much for your time, and I'm glad that you brought this calming atmosphere into this giant that is analytics. Thank you so much.
Thank you.